So, throughout my fitness journey, I think that I never really stuck to a certain diet per se. I kind of I've kind of just lived by certain philosophies that have affected, the things that I ate. And so in the first, I guess, era, the first chapter of my fitness sort of journey was the whatever fits your macros era. So I would just basically do whatever it takes to make sure that I hit my protein, and everything else didn't really matter. As long as I hit my calorie goal and my protein goal, nothing else mattered to me. And so whatever allowed me to fill my calories up after I hit my protein, I would eat that. Whether it was cookies, whether it was steak, whether it was something like vegetables or whatever. If it didn't really matter to me, as long as I hit my protein first, I didn't really care. And so I remember a lot of times I would always save kind of the save the calories for the end of the day. I would eat a bunch of like protein rich things like chicken and some, maybe some beef or some pork or whatever. And I would save up my calories for the end of the day and or just throughout the day. And I would have something like sugary, something sweet, like some junk food basically. And other times I would just eat like, I would eat real food sometimes. Sometimes if I felt like it. And throughout that time, I basically never said no to dessert, to eating junk food, to eating something that was sweet. Like I'd have Doritos and shit like that, bro, all of the time. And that was cool, but I just never really like it was just kind of the philosophy I lived by. But as I grew up and I aged and I matured within the next year or so of my fitness journey, I found that, maybe I should be eating as much of this junk food stuff. Maybe I should actually try and eat a little bit more real food. And that was my next philosophy. And that's where I started to try and just reduce the amount of junk food that I ate. But, and stick, yeah, and just generally stick to a cleaner diet of eating, meat, eggs, vegetables, fruit, those sorts of things. And not really, and just eating like kind of like real food more often than not. But even then, I would still kind of cave in and eat junk food because I always had that thing like, oh, but I'll just hit my macros. It's fine. Like, as long as I hit my protein, I'm good. And that continued up until about May of 2024, whenever I decided to set myself a challenge to not eat any junk food, to not eat any carbs, to stick to a specific sort of diet for a full year. And that challenge was just eating the carnivore diet for a full year. I wanted to see how I'd feel, what it would affect me, if I would, be more of an athlete, if I could do better. That was the challenge that I had set for myself. And so now I am 8 months into that challenge and I'm been going on strong. I haven't cheated on my diet. I have been eating meat, eggs, and a little bit of dairy for the past 8 months. I actually cut out a lot of the cheese that I was eating because I found that to be easy to overeat. And so I just generally eat like butter as the form of dairy, basically. And I've actually also recently cut out processed meats like bacon and sausage and bratwurst because I found out that those actually have some sugar in them. And so, it's been kind of a progression. And I wouldn't say that before that technically eating those things was cheating on my diet. Oh my gosh. I was just kind of unaware of that, but I was still eating like 99% of just like meat and eggs and that sort of thing. So I haven't cheated on my diet in 8 months, right? I feel pretty good. So that deserves a subscribe. And if you want to support me, you should go subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. But I just want to talk about how I've managed to stick to my diet for 8 months without cheating, without, falling victim to any cravings. Because there have been some times where I've gotten sort of close to cheating on my diet, but there have been a couple of like mindsets and reminders that I have kind of in store. They're kind of like in my arsenal of mental blockades that allow me to kind of get past any sort of idea of, oh, I should cheat on my diet, or one bite of this won't hurt. I'm going to share with you those sort of like mental roadblocks, I guess, for overcoming any sort of like cravings and whatnot. Because I think sticking to your diet is by far the most important thing whenever it comes to actually achieving your diet or like fitness and health goals and whatnot. It's like actually sticking to something. You know, it doesn't matter what diet you choose, really, as long as it's as long as it has enough nutrients in it and whatever. And like it doesn't have to be as extreme as the carnivore diet, which is what I'm doing, but as long as it's something like healthy, maybe you decide to just cut out junk food, right? Or maybe you decide I'm going to try, like paleo or keto, or I don't know, like you're just gonna try and eat cleaner, right? Or like animal based or whatever. Maybe you want to do that diet, but it's just really hard for you to stick to that diet. I can understand that. I just told you that story where I would just cave to junk food even though I knew it wasn't that good for me. And so that's why I'm making this video, is because I just want to help my younger self out. I want to help people like him out, and stick to your diet, because that's the most important thing overall, is adherence to a diet. It's not really the specific diet itself, it's if you can stick to it or not eat freaking junk food. And so the first thing within that story that I told you is I had set myself a challenge. Okay, I had set myself a goal, some big motivation that I genuinely wanted to try out and achieve. It wasn't some sort of like half-assed, like, oh, I just want to get healthier. It wasn't anything like that. It was specific and very kind of like direct. I'm going to stick to a carnivore diet for 1 whole year. After that, I can reassess and do whatever. But for a full year, I'm going to stick to this carnivore diet. Like, that's the challenge. That's the goal that I have set for myself. And that's kind of the biggest thing for me. And that's what I look back at when sorry. That's the thing that I look back at whenever I maybe consider, like, cheating on my diet, maybe having some like bread or some freaking candy or some cinnamon rolls. Like a couple of weeks ago, my mom made cinnamon rolls for Christmas. It's like January now, but back a couple of weeks, it was Christmas time. And my family has this tradition, or my mom has this tradition of making cinnamon rolls on Christmas Day. And just kind of around that time, she bakes a lot. And so we had, like, there was like cookies in the house, there was cinnamon rolls, there was all sorts of like sugary, sweet things that I could have just gone and be like, you know what? It's Christmas time. It's during the holidays. It's not that big a deal. And so I just have it. And then I've just failed the challenge, basically. I've cheated on my diet. No bueno, man. And so that's one of the first things that I do, is like, okay, I set this challenge to myself. Am I really going to break it for like one day, for like 5 minutes of pleasure as I eat this cinnamon roll? Is it really that worth it? Like, I don't think it is. And so that's kind of the big thing, is like I set myself this challenge. I set myself this obligation. I told myself I'm going to do this thing, so I'm going to do it. And I think that broadly applies just in general. If you set yourself a challenge or an objective or a task, and then you do that task, you end up trusting yourself more. And I think that becomes kind of this positive upward spiral to where if you, even for like a week, right, you can start at the very like basic. I think that if you could say to yourself, I'm going to stick to this diet for a week. Cool. Right? Now you have evidence that you can stick to your diet for a week. Maybe you can do it for 2. If you can do it for 2, like, okay, cool, I can do it for 2 weeks. And then it just kind of builds on itself, that evidence, like, okay, I can do this, right? I don't have to cheat on my diet. Like, everything else is good. Like, the pleasure's not even that worth it. I'm going to stick to this for a year. And that's what I've been doing, and that's how I've been pretty successful so far. Is I've just kind of looked back at the times before, even whenever I've cheated on, whenever I've not cheated, whenever I've thought about it, and I thought, okay, well, I got past that, so I'm going to get past now. Like, even, I was actually low-key kind of close. I think it was a week ago, my mom made some banana bread. Let me tell you, bro, banana bread is so freaking fire, but I haven't had it in a while because I've been sticking to this diet. I've just removed that food from my life. And so whenever my mom made some banana bread recently, the smell was in the air. I looked at it, kind of sniffed it a little bit. I was thinking about it, like maybe getting a slice and having a little bit, like, I don't want to be that bad. But then I thought to myself, I've made it this far. Why should I stop now? It's kind of like whenever, it's like, I'm basically like cresting the hill. Like, it's not even that big of a challenge anymore. And so I just ignored it, and I just went to preparing my other food that still tastes good anyways. But yeah, the next mental kind of model that I use whenever I think about cheating on my diet, or I have kind of that idea, I always think about how I feel whenever I do eat the junk food. Because I think about the times where I did cave in. I think about the times where I did overeat and I, ate too much fruit, or I ate too much freaking cookies or whatever, or I had some weird, like ultra processed protein bar and some weird gas station pulled pork sandwich. There was a time it was kind of like mid to late 2023. I think it was like September or October of 2023. And I had made this commitment to eating cleaner food just in general. I just don't want to eat as much junk food because it didn't make, like, I didn't feel that, like, I felt better not having it. But I was riding the bus back from a soccer game, and we had stopped at this gas station for like food and drinks and a bathroom stop or whatever, because it was a really far away game. And so we were coming back, and and we I bought these. I bought 2 protein bars. One was a cookies and cream protein bar. The other was a s'mores protein bar. And I had also bought this pulled pork sandwich from the gas station, right? But I bought that. I ate it all because I was very hungry from the soccer game. And I just, hounded them down. It was also like ultra processed food, so it was really easy to consume it. And so I ate those things. They tasted pretty good, right? I mean, you can imagine, like, the things are ultra tasty because they're like, they got the right texture and the right amount of freaking artificial sweeteners, so it tastes like a s'mores, even though it's not. It's not, like, none of the ingredients are related to s'mores. So I ate those things, and I remember a few hours after that, dude. A few hours afterwards, my teammate had invited me and a couple of the other guys in my grade who were on the team to his house, and we were gonna hang out. Maybe, I think it was like either watch something, or like mess around, that sort of thing. Just kind of hang out. I remember I was starting to get ready to leave my house and go over to my friends after that game. It was later in the night, and I just remember feeling like this weird this weird pain in my stomach. So remember, I had eaten these like protein bars and this gas station sandwich, dude. I had eaten those things, and now they were just starting to kind of like get through. And I started feeling like really awful in my stomach, and I was like, "Oh, what?" Like, and I thought that I was just about to like explode, either like my stomach or the bathroom that was going to have to face the punishment, right? But I just felt awful. I just felt like sick and gross, and I started regretting eating what I had eaten before. And looking back, I think those protein bars were probably the cause. I think they had some weird ingredient in them that causes kind of like gastric distress and whatnot. And I think that's the main reason why that I had that problem. But looking back, like that is one of the reasons why that I don't cheat on my diet anymore. That's one of the reasons why I don't, eat junk food anymore. Is because I think back to the time whenever I felt that. And I think to the times whenever I ate other things that made me feel weird or off or slow. Like there was another time where I ate this like protein pancake thing, right? Honestly, like the ingredients in that aren't like super vast like they were in the protein bar, but it was still like sugar and like weird like weird gluten and whatnot, right? So I eat that, and I remember just feeling stupid for the next like 4 hours, just not being able, like just feeling unable to think and slow and lethargic because of this weird like sugar high and crash. And so that's one of the mental models that I generally go through whenever I even have that consideration of like, oh, should I eat this thing? Is I think, how am I going, like I future cast it out, how am I going to feel after I eat this thing? Because after I eat something like steak or eggs or yeah, steak or eggs or burgers and whatnot, I generally feel like better, or I'm like slightly like calmer and full because I ate a lot of food. I'm just kind of like ugh, but I don't. I've Whenever I eat like whole food in general, and especially whenever I stick to the current diet that I'm on, I don't have kind of like weird stomach discomfort anymore. I don't really have weird, like bouts of like low energy unless I eat a lot of food. But even then, I can still kind of like get back up if I start moving around more and I start walking. Whenever I ate a bunch of like junk food and crap, it was just bleh the entire time. But I think you get what I mean with this point is I like to future cast out how I'm probably going to feel if I eat that thing. And so it just discourages me from eating it in the first place. And so that's something that I would recommend you doing is whenever you do cheat on your diet, because at some points you may, and that's okay as long as you just get back on the horse. Just think about how you feel after that. Just be really cognizant of the the quality of your experience in life. Just be really aware of that. How do you feel? Do you have any like weird stomach discomfort? Do you feel kind of sick? Do you get like weird diarrhea after you eat a certain type of food? Just think about that. And then remind yourself next time you go to eat that, then that maybe you shouldn't, because you have this thing that comes afterwards. But yeah, and the third and final thing that I want to talk about mental model wise for how I've stuck to my diet for 8 whole months is the other goal that I have. So I set the challenge to stick to this diet for a year, right? But I also have other goals of becoming a good athlete, getting to the 800-meter state final. It requires me to eat well, to eat properly, to not cheat on my diet and just kind of like slack off in order to achieve my goals, because I genuinely think like I'm behind, and I've kind of set myself back with overtraining and injury and whatnot. I've kind of set myself back. So I'm like behind. I'm behind. And so if I take any days off of, eating clean, and I decide, oh, you know what? Some banana bread won't hurt. Some cinnamon rolls won't hurt. And it hurts my performance for the next like 2 days because I've eaten some junk food. And so I'm just kind of like at like 95% of what I could be doing, or I'm like at 80% maybe, then I'm literally screwing myself over for those goals. And I want my goals more than I want any sort of pleasure. Like the pleasure that I get from food is down here into the pleasure that I get from pursuing my goals and pursuing my hopes and dreams, basically, my aspirations. The difference in fulfillment and happiness that I have is so vast, and that's something that I would really recommend you to put down. If you have some health, some fitness goal, be really specific about it. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to gain 10 pounds of muscle. I want to get to this percent of body fat. I want to be able to run this pace at this race. It's going to require you, and make sure it's not super ambitious, not unrealistic, but relatively ambitious, so that it requires you, it has a calling that you need to eat in a certain way to not cheat on your diet in order to achieve that, right? And, eat in whatever way that you deem necessary in order to achieve that goal. Does that make sense? So, and make sure this goal is really meaningful to you. Like for me, getting to the 800-meter state final or breaking the school record, even though it is kind of arbitrary, I think the amount of preparation that I've put into this so far and the amount of preparation it takes and the commitment, it really means a lot to me, because if I can actually achieve that, then it just proves to me that I can achieve something that I set my mind to. And that's kind of like the underlying goal of that goal, is to prove to myself that I can achieve big goals, big ideas. And so make sure it's meaningful to you. If losing 10 pounds of fat so you can step on the scale and you are happy with it, or you can look in the mirror and you're happy with yourself, you're not disappointed with how you look, that's big. So have some sort of big goal that you want to reach to that requires you to not cheat on your diet. That's how it's worked for me. And I think if you really develop that desire, that burning desire to achieve that goal, then you're going to make it happen, whether it's difficult or not. If you have a big goal that requires you to do that, then it's going to be it's just going to be so much easier to disregard any sort of short-term impulse to eat food. And if you do mess up, then it's going to make you think okay, do you even want it? Do you want your goal? If you cheat on your diet, bro, and you aren't doing the things that you say you want to, do you really want it? Because if you did, then you're going to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal. So that's kind of my mindset about it. It's if you want it bad enough, someone commented this on one of the videos that I kind of talked about this, but it's if you want it bad enough, you're going to do it, okay? And so have a goal that requires you to not cheat on your diet. That's the advice that I would give to my younger self. It's if you don't want to eat junk food anymore, have something that requires you to not eat it, right? Have a goal so big that if you do and you cheat on it, you're really hurting yourself whenever it comes to achieving that goal. But yeah, those are the ways that I've stuck to my diet for 8 months without cheating a single I have not had any cheat days, any cheat meals. I've really enjoyed the food that I've made. I guess that's another thing, is just make sure the food that you're eating is enjoyable and you're eating enough. So you're not suffering all of the time, right? Like, I get it if you're like an in contest bodybuilder and you need to like cut down the amount of food that you're eating. It kind of makes sense. But if you're just a person who wants to achieve a goal, make it easy on yourself, right? Like for me, it's so easy because the food that I eat is one, simple, but it also tastes amazing. Basically, I don't get sick of the food that I eat. So if you create a diet plan for yourself or whatever, make sure it's not like ultra restrictive. Make sure you're not starving yourself. Make sure it's kind of realistic and you're not killing yourself over it. So you're not making it like easier like to break your diet. It's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with kind of giving yourself evidence that you can stick to it for a week. Make it easy to stick to it so you can build that evidence and then just kind of like, if you want to get more extreme with it, then just build up that tolerance as you go along, right? Don't just straight up hop in to a diet that you don't really understand or that you can't really sustain for long periods of time, especially if you haven't done something like that before. That's just stupid. That's just a stupid way of going about it. So just be mindful of that. Don't make it so hard on yourself to where you need to or you need to like kill yourself in the process of it. Like don't do that. That's not good to do. But yeah, that's how I've stuck to my diet for 8 months without cheating. And that's how I'm going to stick to my diet for a full year without cheating. And I hope that this video has helped you out. I really think that if you apply some of the things that I talked about today, then you'll be able to really just cut out all the nonsense and really trust yourself more. Because I think that's kind of what I was talking about all before. This is what this is about, is trusting yourself and actually achieving the goals that you set out to do. So yeah, with that being said, this is the end of the video. So thank you for watching. You should go subscribe if you've made it this far. Like, you're an absolute top 0.001% attention span if you made it this far. So thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.